Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the ruins of what had once been the most feared throne room in the galaxy. Crystalline pillars lay shattered across the obsidian floor, and the massive seat carved from a single meteor now bore the scorch marks of plasma fire. The silence was deafening after 3 years of constant warfare. "Hard to believe it's finally over," muttered Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, stepping carefully around the debris. His combat armor still bore the purple stains of Vorthak blood from the final assault. Chen nodded, her weathered face reflecting both exhaustion and satisfaction. "Zarthul the Conqueror," she said, spitting the name like a curse. "He promised to wipe humanity from existence, said we were nothing but clever apes playing with technology we didn't understand." The irony wasn't lost on her. When the hegemony's invasion fleets had first darkened Earth's skies 18 months ago, most of the galaxy's species had already fallen to their might. The Vorthak Empire had crushed the crystalline Zephyrians in mere weeks. The aquatic Nereidans, with their quantum computers, lasted only slightly longer. Even the proud Drakmori warrior clans, veterans of 1,000 conflicts, had bent the knee after their homeworld was turned to glass. But humanity was different. Humanity was stubborn. "Sir," Rodriguez continued, his voice carrying a note of wonder, "the final casualty reports are in from the fleet. We lost 67% of our ships, but—" He paused, consulting his datapad. "We eliminated every single hegemony vessel in this system. Every single one." Chen remembered the moment when Zarthul had made his grand proclamation. The 8-foot-tall alien warlord with his chitinous exoskeleton and 4 burning red eyes had appeared on every human communication device simultaneously. His translator had rendered his words in perfect English, each syllable dripping with contempt. "Humans," he had rasped, his mandibles clicking with amusement. "You amuse me with your persistence. Your species lacks the natural weapons of the Drakmori, the collective intelligence of the Zephyrians, or the technological sophistication of the Nereidans. You are soft, weak, and divided, yet you dare to resist the inevitable." What Zarthul hadn't understood, what none of the galaxy's species seemed to grasp, was that humanity's greatest strength had never been their individual capabilities. It was their capacity for adaptation, for learning from defeat, and for turning their weaknesses into weapons. The first human fleet had been annihilated within hours of engagement. The second lasted days. By the third engagement, human tacticians had begun to understand Vorthak battle patterns. By the fifth, they were adapting faster than the enemy could compensate. "You know what I think broke them?" Rodriguez asked, kicking aside a piece of alien technology. "It wasn't our ships or our weapons. It was Captain Martinez." Chen smiled grimly at the memory. Captain Elena Martinez had been commanding a damaged cruiser during the Battle of Titan's Gate, when her ship was boarded by Vorthak assault troops. Standard protocol called for surrender when facing overwhelming odds. Martinez had instead sealed herself in the reactor core and detonated her ship's entire antimatter supply, taking out 3 enemy dreadnoughts and their entire boarding complement. The action itself wasn't unique. The Drakmori had performed similar sacrificial attacks. What was unique was what happened next. Every human ship captain in the fleet had received Martinez's final transmission. "If we're going down, we're taking as many of these bastards with us as possible." Within hours, similar acts of desperate courage were being reported across the front lines. Human crews weren't just fighting. They were fighting with a savage determination that bordered on insanity. They rammed damaged ships into enemy formations. They rigged cargo vessels as massive bombs. They turned evacuation shuttles into guided missiles. The Vorthak, accustomed to species that fought rationally, calculating odds and preserving forces, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to view death as merely another tactical option. The psychological warfare reports from their survivors make interesting reading, Chen mused. Apparently they started calling us the species that does not yield. Not exactly the clever apes Zarthul expected. The turning point had come during the siege of Europa. Zarthul himself had descended to the ice moon's surface to personally oversee the final extermination of the human colony there. It was meant to be a demonstration, a message to any remaining human resistance that their warlord would see to their destruction personally. Instead, it became his downfall. The colonists of Europa had spent their final weeks not preparing for evacuation, but for a trap. Using mining equipment, they had honeycombed the moon's surface with tunnels and explosive charges. When Zarthol's forces landed, they found not cowering refugees but a planetoid-sized booby trap, operated by people with nothing left to lose. The explosion had been visible from Jupiter's other moons. Zarthol's flagship, his personal guard, and nearly a quarter of his remaining fleet had been vaporized in an instant. The colonists had died, but they had taken their would-be exterminator with them. The diplomatic corps says the other hegemony species are already sending peace envoys, Rodriguez reported. Seems killing their supreme commander has a way of dampening enthusiasm for conquest. Chen picked up a fragment of the shattered throne, examining its alien craftsmanship. He was right about one thing, she said quietly. We are just clever apes. But he forgot something important about apes. What's that, sir? When you back them into a corner, they bite. Outside the ruined palace, human ships were already beginning the long journey home. They carried with them the knowledge that humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through superior technology or natural gifts, but through sheer, bloody-minded refusal to quit. The throne stood empty, and it would remain so. The species that had once promised to end humanity had learned too late that some wars aren't won by the strongest or the smartest. Sometimes they're won by the most stubborn.